When we take the stories from the Bible literally, they become a little bit confusing and a little bit muddled. That's because the Bible, from my perspective, is talking about stories from our own awakening journey. I'm going to talk a little bit about Adam and Eve today and what my feeling is that it means in truth. So if you're interested in that, then by all means, stick around. So there's this idea that the Adam and Eve story is about our fall from grace, from the heavens to this physical realm, because we did something bad in heaven and therefore we touched the forbidden fruit. We listened to the snake, the serpent's whispers, and therefore we were banished to this realm, which we will agree right now is going through a real upheaval. And thank God it is, because it will end, from my perspective, in unity. That's what consciousness wants. Unity. Now, talking of unity, to know unity though, we must know separation. So what is separation? Well, we're talking about the separation inside of ourselves, meaning the identity in the mind that we call the ego, the one that likes to separate us and make us feel like an individual rather than the collective whole, rather than a part of the collective whole that we are. When I say that, I mean we're all one in our consciousness, and regardless of gender, religion, creed, ethnicity, our consciousness is exactly the same. The space behind my eyes and in my skin, underneath my skin, looking out onto this camera and through the laptop screen for you or the phone screen for you, is exactly the same as the space inside of you, behind your eyes, looking out onto me on your computer screen or your iPhone screen. In that sense, we're all one, we're all the same, we're just spacious awareness, loving spacious awareness. But the ego, the one in the mind, the identity creating machine that says I, you, knows myself as me because I see other than me, and therefore creating separation. I'm me and you're you. But that is not true, not in our experience at least. The idea of Adam and Eve, from my perspective, and this came through me today while I was talking to a client one-on-one, which, by the way, is where I've been the last 3 weeks. I've been so busy. A great blessing, truly, but I've been so busy, and that's why I've been away from here. And if you want to sign up for the one-to-one coaching, you're more than welcome to down below. You can sign up through an application form. There's also a free breathing practice down below and a paid breathing practice down below, should you wish. There's also a free community for awakening souls on Facebook that you're more than welcome to sign up for you down below, should you wish. Back to the video. The idea of Adam and Eve is not talking about something external to us. Though people are welcome to their own perspectives, each perspective of consciousness is valid. In my experience, this is what it's talking about, and this came through to me in a one-to-one call. I was doing a call with a couple in America earlier on today. See, the apple, the forbidden fruit that allows, by taking a bite of it, allowing the fall from grace, is talking about nothing external but internal in our consciousness. This spacious awareness that I am and that you are before we touch the ego is clean, it's one, it's holy, it's complete. Now the ego can come into integration into our system. At least there can be distance between us and the ego, in the sense that it plays less of a role, less of a decision-making process inside of ourselves. It's just a witnessable thing. But should we believe the ego's thoughts? Let's look at this more slowly. If we close our eyes, we can see thoughts brewing, can't we? We could see a thought bubbling up inside of our consciousness. This is the apple dangling from the tree in the Adam and Eve story. The thoughts, the ego. Now the ego can be there and it can have these thoughts. It can tease us with the apple. Let's look at it from a perspective of the one that the client was talking to me about earlier. He said to me, I have this obsessive thought about a lack of money. So I get scared when I frivolously spend. Now the reality of it is that I have plenty of money, not me, him, he says, I have plenty of money, but I still do this obsessive thing where I limit myself, I limit my consciousness by believing the thought in my head. What's the thought? Well, the ego comes in and says, shouldn't be spending like this because you might run out of money. This is a belief in lack, isn't it? And of course, we're all going about our day and doing the best we can, so don't just tie this to money, because some of us don't have enough money to spend, and that's okay too. But the belief in lack there that the mind's brought in is the forbidden fruit. The fall of grace happens when we believe it. Why does that happen? Because inside of ourselves, we've limited ourselves, and by believing the thought of lack, meaning I don't have enough money, how do we feel? We feel rubbish. We've fallen from the grace that was inherently ours. And what do I mean by that? I mean our clean, untouched consciousness. By biting that apple, the forbidden fruit, meaning by believing the ego, we fall from grace. It's not about falling from heaven to earth, but in a sense it is, inside ourselves. It's about having this heavenly consciousness that's clean, peaceful, content as our natural state of being. And as soon as we bite into that apple of the mind, believing in lack, or believing that more is outside of myself, then we fall from grace, limit our consciousness, and we end up feeling rubbish for it. This, from my perspective, and it's open to interpretation, but this is really what the Bible's talking about. Much like the baptism of Jesus. Well, I've had a baptism, and I got baptised, and it says in the Bible that Jesus' head was washed into the ocean, and it washed away all of his sins. Well, I got baptised, and I ended up staying a sinner. So I know it from my experience of life that this can't be the true baptism, not what they were talking about. But is it not fair to say that if Jesus was to wash his head and dunk his head into the ocean of his consciousness, well, what might they be talking about inside of ourselves? Dipping the mind head into the ocean of our being, the feeling presence awareness, or what we call in yoga dynamic stillness, washing the mind, dipping the mind, dunking the mind and the head into the ocean of who we are to wash away our sins. Meaning, not sins really, they don't mean any thoughts are sinful. No, it just means these thoughts that hurt us, we must baptize them. Meaning, just dropping the attention from the mind into the feeling of the body, the ocean consciousness that we are. The Bible's real. It's a real book, of course, but the pointings in the Bible is talking about things inside of us, not outside of us. And this is a really interesting switch for me, and that came today through the ocean consciousness that I am. Those words weren't mine. They were the first time I heard them when I said them to the client, and we both sat there in amazement, like, whoa, where did that come from? I'm like, I can't claim that. It came from the stillness, the ocean, where we're all connected in consciousness. I hope this video helps. I hope it makes sense. Have yourself a lovely, lovely day.